Good evening, everyone. My name is Siemers Livingston. I'm the Director for Campus Life here on the Manhattan campus at NYIT. I want to welcome everyone to our 4th annual SheEO event. So thank you for being here. We have some students, some staff, some community members, and our lovely panelists and alumni. So thank you all for coming out tonight in honor of Women's History Month. As I said, this is the 4th annual SheEO event. This event was created 4 years ago from one of our past staff members in Career Services. And since then, the event has turned into a collaboration with many folks from other departments at NYIT. So as you see, we have Campus Life, Career Services, Student Involvement, Enrollment Services, and Academic Enrichment. So it's a true collaboration of women coming together to make sure that women in our community are getting to know about truly what it is to be a woman of strength. And the panelists that will be talking tonight, the moderators, Chelsea, who is our alumni here tonight, will be able to talk to you and tell their story about what they're going through in their careers, in their home life, and who they are as women in society. So we thank them very much for being here. I also want to thank Amy Bravo and Dean Anne Marie Klotz for being willing to be the moderators tonight. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is networking. I think there's a power in networking, and we did the first 30 minutes so people could get to know each other and not just say hello to the folks that they saw that were familiar faces. I think sometimes for women and men, it's hard to go up to somebody that you don't know and put out your hand and say, how are you? What are you passionate about? What do you like to do? And so I would encourage you all, before the end of the night, put your hand out, introduce yourself, get to know somebody else that you wouldn't have known otherwise before coming here tonight. We're, again, appreciative of all the panelists, and I would like to, at this point, bring up Dr. Anne Marie Klotz, our Dean for Students. Dr. Anne Marie Klotz is the Dean on this Manhattan campus and the Chief Student Affairs Officer at NYIT. She earned her doctorate from DePaul University, where she studied the career trajectory and leadership styles of 10 female university presidents. Her personal and research interests include women's career development, and so that's why we chose Dr. Anne Marie Klotz to be here. And I'd like to also bring up Chelsea Alexis, who was graduated 4 years ago? 2014. Okay, and she got her bachelor's in business. She currently works at Next, which is a UK-based business focused on electronic markets and post-trade business. She currently started her own wedding business, and so she's going to talk about that venture, which has been a highlight in her life. And she really, truly takes pride in mentoring women. So thank you both for being here.
Before we get started, I would like to give a round of applause to a woman that many women know here who has empowered many students, staff, and faculty here at NYIT. So can we give it up for Siemers Livingston? Thank you all for being here today. It's an interesting group that we have in here. I see so many students, some alums, folks who work with us, local community members, people who support our work at NYIT in large ways. So we are appreciative to all of you. When Megan and I were chatting a little bit about the forum for this event, because it's taken several forms over the years, one of the suggestions that I had is, we're going to do a great panel, which is coming up real soon, which we always do. But what if we did a little bit of a more in-depth, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, like one-on-one coffee talk conversation with someone who has been a part of our NYIT community and has gone on to do great things. So often when we talk to students about life post-graduation, we always say, you have the opportunity to do so many things while you're here, and we hope that we have taught you many great skills so that when it is time for you to make your mark, you can go off and do exactly that. And so I'm going to let Chelsea do her introduction and then just engage us a little bit in a conversation about both her life when she was here as a student, the transitional piece between student and successful entrepreneur, and we're going to talk a little bit about bumps along the way, transitional issues, and what it's like to be a woman in her industry. So Chelsea, just by way of introduction, do you want to share a little bit about your life that led up to you coming to NYIT?
Wow. Thank you. So, well, hi guys. I graduated 2014, and experience coming here, I intended on coming more or less for law, and strategically business law. And once I pretty much started my business degree, I realized in the process that this business maybe is just what I want. That's exactly the path that I'm going to go through. And it was while I was here, I ended up taking a hospitality elective just for me to fulfill the requirements. And it was with Dr. K, and it really changed my life. In the process of meeting with him, even after class, he just mentioned that he really encouraged me to take a event planner course that they offer every spring semester. And initially I was just like, it might be an expensive course to take in the beginning, but it'd be worth it. And I was very discouraged initially, and Dr. K really pushed for it, and he was like, I really think that you'd be great at it. And I ended up taking the course and realized that hospitality was just where I wanted to be. I got the degree in business, but found myself in hospitality the majority of my life post-grad, and just realizing that maybe weddings and event planning were the things that I really wanted. So I remember even in my business courses, I had taken a entrepreneur class, and we had to pretty much think of any business that we would want and create an entire proposal, do everything for it, create a business plan for it. And the very business that I'm running now was really built off of that entrepreneur course. And I had taken my entire business plan and ran with it. So I ended up continuing on. Now I'm running a business and running an event planning, but I also ended up opening up the door to really meet with people who were in the finance world. So a friend of mine happened to connect me to Next. And even being there, initially started off for a receptionist position, but now they want me more in the office manager and pretty much planning their corporate events. So it opened up a lot of major doors. So
when we were chatting before coming up on the stage, you talked a little bit about that course that you took, and it's really interesting to me because both in my research and in just my general experience with women in general, there seems to be a lot of those moments where someone's kind of pushing you or encouraging you, and maybe you're like, this doesn't feel like I should. Like you had mentioned, the course was really expensive. You weren't sure if it was a direction you wanted to go, but you said yes. Can you talk about why you thought you took that risk, even though there may have been some cons against it?
So that actual course, I think more or less for me as a business major, I was thinking more of finance and accounting, and I wasn't really thinking of hospitality, but I do know that I enjoyed serving others and I enjoyed making other people happy, and to also see that my professor was rooting me on for it really kind of encouraged me just to see that someone believes that I could make it in this. So because of that, it might have been an investment in the beginning, but it turned out to be amazing. So,
speaking of serving, when Chelsea worked here on campus, she worked for dining services, and I think many of us can resonate with having jobs on campus, probably in the room. Can you share a little bit about what your experience working on campus, and maybe specifically with dining services, how that prepared you for life after NYIT?
So dining services, I ended up working there. There was a young lady named Marcia who worked there, and I came in and she happened to be really busy. I came in just for food, and I realized that she needed help. And I came and looked at her and I said, do you really, can I help you? Is there any way I could help you? And the rest became history. I ended up being offered a position to work there. But it was just coming out of volunteering and wanting to help. And I think that goes for many majors where you're willing to volunteer your services, you're willing to help. We call them sometimes internships, really just pouring out. And that helping hand goes a long way with any industry that you're in. So I continued on and ended up working full time. It ended up paying off my last year of school, which was amazing. So I really, really encourage it.
So we have some students here in the room. And so what do you wish that you knew about life after college from when you were 18? What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self about what that experience was like, and some words of advice?
Wow. So if I were to tell myself, my younger self, loans, they come back. They do. One, do not take so many out if you really don't need them.
I see some nodding faces in the audience like, oh, yes.
They do, trust me, they build up. But also realizing that once you do graduate, that 6 month, it does come, and it comes rapidly. And I think oftentimes, I know for me, came out thinking, yes, you're gonna have this job and everything's gonna be set and you're gonna pay them back really quickly. And that is not the case, because interest does come in for you. But I think I wish someone did break that down in the beginning, that yes, maybe you need to do more internships, or you need to solidify a position prior to graduating, because yes, you do have to pay those bills back.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we see all the hats get thrown at graduation, and we're like, this is where the magic happens, and the unicorns and roses, right? And it's all smooth sailing. Can you talk a little bit about some of the bumps, some of the transitional challenges between turning your tassel and being the entrepreneur that you are?
So turning the tassel, that was a beautiful moment. But for me, I had actually, prior to turning the tassel, I had torn my meniscus. And I thought that I was going to be solidified with the position right after graduating. And that was not the case. And those things we don't plan for. But I did wish that someone did let me know, there's life experiences, but you need to prepare for these things prior to. These things can happen to anybody. But it did push me to want to do more. I knew that I graduated and I was going to need a position somewhere, but going back to what I was saying earlier, volunteering, I pretty much went out there and was willing to work with anybody, help anybody in my field, and I ended up helping wedding planners and with their own businesses, and really sitting there and interning with them on weekends, and realizing that this just may be the very thing that I wanted. So while interning with them, I actually had one of the young ladies who I worked with. She told me, I really think that you should go into the business. And I had showed her my business plan initially, and she's like, you created the business plan, so why aren't you running with it? And it took me some time to finally agree, because I knew that there was going to be some investments in this business to actually make it a corporation. But I knew that with anything that I ever wanted to do, it would be an investment. School was an investment. The initial idea of me taking this event and wedding planning course was an investment. So why not? And I did, and just to see the turnout of the clients that have come through my door, the opportunities for networking with other individuals in different fields that still need wedding and event planners, and that goes for any field. So really, and I will say this many times this evening, I really encourage really reaching out to people, networking, as Megan had said earlier, but also be willing to help, be willing to get your hands dirty sometimes, because there are fields where you may think that you're unnoticed, but they will notice you. Trust me, there's somebody that's always watching, and they're taking notes.
So parts of your story have already sort of touched on this, but I'd be curious to see if there's a different example you would offer. In my own research of female leaders, the one common thread that came through when asking why were they so successful in becoming leaders was that they said they always said yes. no matter what the opportunity was that came up, no matter how small, they said yes, when often other times people would hesitate, say no, or say I'm not ready or I'm not sure. Can you think about some times where maybe that saying yes has had a great benefit?
Yes. Currently, the position that I'm working at Next, so it started off as a receptionist position, and pretty much as a receptionist, they just wanted us to answer calls and to escort guests into the building or onto our floor. And in most cases, for receptionists, they assume that that's all we would do, and I wanted more. I felt like it wasn't enough for me, and I wanted for them to see that I was more than just the receptionist, and that my desire to move up. So anything that they wanted, yes, I'll do it. Do you need an expense report done? I'll do it. And a lot of the other individuals that were there would take note. And we currently this week had our board here, so our CEO, CFO, and our group board was here, and I told them, as a receptionist, I don't mind doing the catering, setting up the catering, and I did. And it was interesting because the CFO and the CEO, on their way out, they left yesterday, greeted me and told me that they noticed my work and that they thanked me for just being there. And for me, it was an important moment because I could have just been the receptionist sitting there, but they saw something different. And for them to realize that they felt that I did deserve more than that, so they created a position for me in the New York location as an office manager that I'm supposed to start in May. So
that's great. So I think sometimes there's the double-edged sword of always saying yes, right? And I think particularly for women and for women of color especially, there's this combination of I want to do everything, I want to say yes to everything, but sometimes is either that work devalued, undervalued, not looked at in the strongest light. Can you share a little bit about how do you navigate success as an entrepreneur? As a woman of color, has it been a factor? Is it a non-factor? I think we would love to hear some of your thoughts on that.
I think it is a factor, even outside of like my own business, but even working for this company, seeing a board of multiple different men on it, and there's only one woman who had to really fight to get there, and even had the opportunity to talk to her about it. And she's like, we do need more women up here. We do. And to hear her really see that and understand that in the midst of her talking to me, could feel that just maybe, if you keep pushing, you could do this. It oftentimes can feel like you do have to say yes to everything. But I think for me, starting off to say no to maybe full-time being a receptionist to telling them I need more did change a lot for me. But oftentimes it does feel overwhelming that you do feel the need to have to say yes to everything just to make sure that you are noticed, to make sure that people can see you. But it is rewarding at the end of the day. And I feel like in the beginning you push through, even as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of things that I had to push through in the process, but at the end of the day, the right people will see you. The right people will respect your integrity, your humility in the process. You just have to push through.
So knowing, I would say, a good half or more of some of the folks who are in this audience, I know that many of them either have some entrepreneurial dreams or hopes, or maybe are looking to sort of solidify a side hustle that brings in some additional revenue. What would you share with folks in the audience about ways to get started?
One, really create a business plan. Whatever that idea is, and it could be anything. I don't care who's told you they don't think you could do it. Just draw up that business plan and have someone overlook it. And even if they say no, push through it. There are many people in this process for me that had said, I don't think it's a great idea, go to finance, that's solidified. And I knew that it was a passion and I wanted to do it. And I was willing to push through. It didn't matter what it was. It cost me some late nights. It cost me countless hours investing in it. It did mean that I had to have an extra job on the side to make sure that I had capital for my business. But I saw it and I believed in my dream and I wanted it. And I think that's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter who says that you can't do it, as long as you believe in it and you honestly see that you can make it, go for it. And that's all I could really say for that.
So much of the success and leadership literature talks a lot about the importance of mentors and sponsors, and you've definitely talked about, Dr. K obviously pushing you to take that course could be one example, but can you talk a little bit about the ways that other men or women have shown up for you in those spaces, have served as strong mentors or sponsors for you?
So one of my mentors is right here, Megan. I'd spend time in her office talking to her about just the different things happening in my life. Teachers really opened up the door. They opened up that avenue, really invested into me. Sometimes it may not be a position opening up. Sometimes they do have the right connections to provide for you. But words of encouragement really pushed me through. And mentors outside of college really helped me that were successful individuals that saw potential, and they may be busy, they may be very focused on their career and very driven, but they found the time to sit down and meet with me, and it encouraged me to want to do the same thing for younger ladies who are still trying to figure things out or they don't know what they want to do yet. And I always say I may not always have the time to sit down, but I'll invite you into what I'm doing. So even if that means you're coming to an event with me, just to see what it looks like, and we're talking on our way there, just so you could see into my life, or for you to walk into my shoes for a day. And sometimes that's a push right there, because there were many individuals who did the same for me.
Mm-hmm. We were talking before we came up here about the importance of staying in contact, especially for the students in the room, with professors and with administrators who have helped you in your career, right? So if you have a great professor your freshman year, or you have someone who serves as your supervisor for orientation your first year or second year, making sure that you maintain those connections so that by the time that reference letters are needed or support or advice are needed, you've continued to build those connections. Do you feel like you've been able to do that since you've left here?
Oh yes, teachers were the best investment. If there's anything, yes, we absorb education out of school, but your teachers are a strong, strong asset. They really have a lot to offer. They know plenty of individuals outside of here. They have a great pool of network within themselves. So yes, we can go to them to hear advice or things of that sort, but really staying connected to your teachers, they open up a lot of doors. I'm thinking of Dr. K, just a lot of the positions even after me graduating was him really just sending in my resume here or showing me this is a company I would really like you to stay connected with. Really opened up the doors, but it also built experience for me to end up where I needed to end up, or to really see where my passion lied. For me, taking an elective ended up in hospitality for me, so you never know. And I really, really encourage just staying connected with your teachers. Do not just take the class and just leave. Spend time. You don't know what this professor may offer you, and they're willing. Trust me, it may seem that they're busy and sometimes they may not be able to stay after class, but really stay connected, because they're not just there for recommendations at the end, but they're there just to really build you, and they actually care. So.
Whenever I talk to students here, I'm always surprised and amazed by the entrepreneurial spirit of our students and the things that they want to do. So obviously you talked about the importance of creating a business plan. But other than that, are there any tips that you would give to folks who basically want to go from concept, from dream to implementation? Any other words of advice that you would give them along their journey?
Intern in that field. So whether it's marketing, architecture, whatever idea you have, work in that field. Really get a hold of it, and don't look just, okay, this position. Like for me, starting off in the hospitality field, I didn't mind doing dishes. I didn't mind working up to really get a grasp of this field. What it means to really be in every aspect, whether it's planning it from the beginning to the end for certain companies and helping them. It meant a difference. So really just interning, but also connecting with the right people, networking. Really, I can't say that enough. Networking means the world, especially, I know NYT has plenty of events where you can network, but attend them. If you can attend them, come out. Even if you had a long day, still come out. You do not know who you will meet. You do not know what kind of relationships you will build with these individuals, because it really can mean a difference. That event can change your life, literally.
And finally, Chelsea, 10 years from now, when we invite you to be a part of a similar panel or opportunity like this, what do you want to be saying that you're doing with your career, with your passion, with your company?
So I would love to be saying that I'm constantly traveling with my company, and that it's multiplied. But I would love to see myself a part of the board at the current company that I work for. And I believe that they do need another woman up there, and I think that's my goal, to push to be on that board with them. So.
Well, we are so pleased to have you as an alum here at NYIT, and we thank you so much for your time today. We're incredibly proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chelsea and Anne-Marie. When we do question and answer later on, we'll bring Chelsea back up. So if anyone has questions for Chelsea directly, you'll have that opportunity to do so. At this moment, I'd like to bring up Miranda. She's going to do some raffles and a little bit of icebreaker while we set the stage back up for part 2, the panel. But I also wanted to thank Billy, and is it Justin? Joshua Justin, that I just met today, 2 students of ours. We're really thankful that you're here. This event is streaming live right now. This is something Billy's been working with SGA on, and we're really thankful that you're here. This is streaming live on our SGA page on Facebook, so thank you so much. Okay, at this time I'd like to ask the panel to take a seat, and we're going to introduce Miss Amy Bravo, who's the Senior Director of International and Experiential Education here at NYIT. And Amy's been in the field of higher education since 1997, but since then she's served in many roles and many capacities. So even though she's currently Director of Experiential Education, she's also been in the role of Assistant Dean of Career Services, Coordinator for the American Democracy Project, Program Consultant, and Nonprofit Board Member. She's also a mother, a mentor, and a friend to many. So Amy, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Hello. Oh, I get to sit? Oh, all right. But then I can't see you all. I didn't know this was streaming live. That was told to us not that long ago. Hello. Hi. Thank you for being here. So I would like for you, if you could, everybody has the brochure, the handout. What do you call that, a flyer? Brochure. And that has all details of our panelists here. So what I would like for you to do is, if you could, just introduce yourself and tell us something that's not listed in that bio. Just a little piece of information that you'd like to share with the group. Can we start with you?
Sure. So, hello, my name is Nicole Escano. Something not in my bio is that I've lived in different countries. So I've lived in London, in Italy, and that I speak 3 languages.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Cerrati. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources for Restaurant Associates and Wolfgang Puck Catering. And while I've been in the hospitality industry for 13 years, I have also worked in 5 other industries in my career.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Felecia Pullen. I am the president of Let's Talk Safety, Inc., a not-for-profit in New York. And in addition to all of that, I am a full-time doctoral student.
Hi everyone, I am Lauren Newton. The flyer has a typo. I'm actually a recruiter for Facebook. I'm not a marketing strategist, unfortunately. But something else that is not on there. Actually, you know what? I didn't write down a passion of mine on my my name tag, but I'm super, super passionate about animal advocacy, specifically pit bulls. I'm obsessed with them. So yeah, hello.
Thank you, that's good information. So everyone here, or a lot of the students here, I'm sure have all been to career services at least 50 times, right? One would hope. But one of the things that you'll be asked to do when you visit career services is to develop your 30-second elevator pitch. That's when you have to sell it in just a short amount of time. So I would like to ask at least 2 of our panelists, if you could take a stab at it. Who would like to give their 30-second elevator pitch?
Anybody? Everyone just left.
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
We can both.
30 years of sales and marketing prior to going into not-for-profits allowed me to kind of put this together quickly. So Let's Talk Safety, Inc. is substance abuse prevention, counseling, and now recovery for teens and youth in the Harlem community.
Well done.
Thank you. And that was under 30 seconds.
That was under 30 seconds. Would you like
Shall
to go?
I go? Okay,
I
great.
would love it.
I hear this more than, as a recruiter, I hear 30-second pitches way more than I have to do them. So I will take a stab at it. My name is Lauren Newton. I am overall a creative recruiter. I have about 6 years of experience working in creative recruitment. I started out on the staffing agency side and then finally went in-house. I have helped companies build their hiring functions, and I have also helped candidates throughout their entire careers. I'm super, super passionate about diversity and inclusion, as well as just really personally connecting with my candidates, like I said, throughout their career. And that's that.
Well done.
I should work on wrapping that up a little better.
It's one of the most challenging things to do, and
For
I
sure.
think the students get nervous about it, and I
Yeah.
think everybody does at some point,
Yeah.
you know, even as you move forward. So thank you for that.
Of course.
So if we could, I want to do a little flashback right now. What advice would you give to your college self now, if you could?
So I can take that.
Okay.
So I graduated college in 2007, and so having now been some time away from that, I can say that take advantage as much as you can to all of the resources that your college has to offer. You don't realize how valuable they are until you don't have them anymore. And really don't focus on just getting a job, but focus on thinking about what do you really like to do in life. So your passions, as we all wrote down on our stickers. Because if you focus on what you truly are passionate about, then working will come and follow through with that. So if you focus too much on just getting a job, then that's all you will do is just get a job, not necessarily something that you love doing.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
So what is your passion?
So I am passionate about New York City, which is how I started picking first where I wanted to go to school and then also the field of where I work now.
Excellent, thank you. Robin, what advice would you give your college self with all the knowledge you have now?
Yeah, lots of knowledge. Honestly, not to have been so hard on myself. I think when you're in school, most of us are here because we're overachievers and we have ambitious goals, and we think that if we get someplace, that will be the point where success hits. And when we make mistakes, we get angry with ourselves, but don't do that to yourself. Enjoy your moment, enjoy the people that you're meeting, Be okay with the place that you're at, and that will take you naturally to the place that you're supposed to be. There's a question down here about how you picked careers, and I changed careers along the way, and I think it was because I took moments in time just to kind of reflect back and not beat myself up so hard. But I think you have to go through it, but enjoy those moments and enjoy the journey that you're on.
Thank you. Would either of you like to address that?
I think that was really, really well put, and I think it's so important not to beat yourself up. I think that especially as you near the end of your college career, you get really, really hard on yourself. And you know, when I was graduating, I think we were just getting over the hump of people not being able to find a job at all upon graduation and everything. And it can be really, really tough. But I think that for me, I went to school first for fine arts. I'm not doing fine arts anymore. And so I would tell myself, like, just relax, it all works out. And I think it's really important to understand that you will end up exactly where you are supposed to be. It might not be, you know, where I'd never think that I was going to be a recruiter, but I am, and I've realized that it's what I'm passionate about and what I love and right where I am supposed to be. So I think that realizing that it will definitely all work out. It might take some time to get there, but it'll work out in the end is really important to remember.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you mentioned several of similar things in your responses. How did you choose your profession? I think one of the issues that we have or college students often have is they look for a direct connection between the major that they're in and the job that they're going to have. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to happen right away, then they get hard on themselves and get discouraged. So how did you ultimately, and let me ask this, when did you ultimately choose your profession? How and when?
I actually chose mine after 10 years of doing something else. I was in retail. I was a business major. I think when we just to go back, sometimes as women, because one of the questions that came up earlier is what's that road for barriers to success? And at the time, the road for women was not really open in business. And so I set very high goals for myself. I wanted to be a CEO, and I thought business was the track that I was supposed to take to get to that road. And after 10 years of being in retail, I hit the wall, for lack of a better term, and actually walked off the job that I was on. I quit and took a reflective moment to determine what it was that I was doing that I liked. And I worked with we talk about networking and people. I was very fortunate. I had a great network of people around me, helped me do self-discovery and helped me redirect my career. And I was very successful in my job. It wasn't that success wasn't there. I just was not happy in it. And I was interviewing at Macy's, and they kept trying to recruit me into this retail position that I kept turning down. And they hired me part-time as a recruiter during their temporary season and paying $13 an hour. And that was how I got my foot in the door into human resources. And the rest is pretty much history. But I took a couple of bold moves and took a step back to redirect myself and catapulted my career to be successful in human resources.
You said yes.
I think I too have had a multi-industry career trajectory. I started out actually teaching preschool at the YMCA on 63rd Street, so I was right here. And I loved that job. I mean, I was making about $18,000 a year, and so I was very poor financially, but I was rich in terms of how I felt every day, right? When I saw those babies and, you know, they would just run up and that you could not pay me for, right? But I did have a hankering for the money, right? Because that's kind of how many of us begin to judge our success. How much money am I making? And so I went into advertising as a media planner, and I was miserable. But the beauty about that job is that salespeople would come in and they go, I'd like to take you to lunch because you're managing this large budget and we want to see, that Gillette ad in our magazine, and can I take you to plays? And I'm like, oh, that's a job for me. I want to be able to take people to lunch and plays and massages and get paid to do that. And I spent 30 years in a sales career. The moral to that is I made lots of money because I thought that that's how success should be judged, and I was dead on the inside. Right? I bought beautiful things, but I was dead on the inside. And my life, and the question before was, what would you tell your college self or your 18-year-old self? And I would tell my younger self that the chapter that I am in is not the end of the story. I would tell my young self that that book has so many more chapters that I don't even know are to come, and that I have no pen to paper to help create. And so I ended up, Amy knows my story, I ended up in a life of addiction. And in my life of recovery, I then began the not-for-profit that I have now. And so I did not know that this was going to be my career, but I did follow my passion, and I heard that common thread about the passion. And so when I followed my passion, the money came, but the happiness, the pure joy in giving back and helping others not to go down the road that I traveled was so crystal clear that I knew that this is what I was meant to do.
Right on. That's a good answer, yes. Let me ask, what was the best advice you had ever received, and why?
I'll take that.
Okay.
I think that two bits of advice. One was when I was transitioning I had actually just changed jobs from one staffing agency to another. I was at a staffing agency for 3 years, and then I was asked to go over to another one. And I had only been there for a month, and I got a call to take a job at a media company, Refinery 29. I know my old staff is here. And it was a consulting position. And so I was leaving a full-time position to go to a position that, I might end up on staff, I might not end up on staff. And someone told me, if you think about the job and if you think you'll regret it in 3 months if you say no, just say yes and take a leap of faith. And it did take a long time for me to think about, and I realized that I probably would regret it. There was not going to be another opportunity for me like this to take, and so I did take it. I left a stable, full-time, salaried position, and I went on board, and I ended up staying at Refinery 29 for 2 years. So it worked out, but it wouldn't have worked out if I didn't take that bit of advice and just sort of take that leap of faith. And I knew that I would regret it if I didn't take it. So that's one. And then another one, I think as a recruiter, I always get asked, like, okay, how should I dress for an interview? How should I act in an interview? And all of that kind of stuff. And I am always giving interview advice. And when it comes time for me to interview, it's kind of hard. I need that advice too, even though I do it every single day. And another recruiter friend of mine put it really simply. I was worrying about what I should wear to an interview. And working in a creative environment, basically for my entire career, you dress very differently, if you're going into a creative environment and if you're going into a corporate environment. And she really simply just said, what makes you feel pretty? And it was that simple advice that I now give to other people. You want to wear what makes you feel good, what makes you feel like beautiful as a woman, what makes you feel powerful, and just go with that. It doesn't have to be a suit. It doesn't have to be a dress. It doesn't have to be, as long as it makes you feel good. I think that's the most important part. Because then if you feel like you look really, really good in an interview, you're more likely to perform really well. And so that bit of advice really has stuck with me as well.
Thank you. Nicole, what about you?
Sure. So when I was starting off in my career, when you start at a new job, you don't necessarily know all of the answers. But what someone told me is that when you encounter an issue, people appreciate when you're proactive. So not only do you raise the issue, but you come with a solution. You come with an answer along with it. And it may not be the right answer, and your manager or who you're talking to may not agree with you, but at least they notice that you are being thoughtful about it and that you're thinking things through. So I would say that in anything you're doing, don't just do the job, really get to understand why you do it, for what, who's the audience, because it empowers you to then give advice or offer a suggestion, or even if you ask a question, people know that you're thinking about it and that you're being more proactive. People appreciate that, and it makes you stand out, I think.
I agree. Would you like to answer that one? No. Okay. Have you ever felt that being a woman has been helpful or detrimental in your profession? How so?
I'll take that one. The answer is I've never let it get in the way of anything that I ever wanted to do. I was fortunate to have a mother in the Gloria Steinem days. She went back and marched a few weeks ago, so she felt like she was repeating history again. But I was fortunate for that. We talk about women in profession. My mother went into the nursing profession because that's the only thing women could do, was be teachers or be nurses. And I was told that I could do anything I wanted, so I didn't see the world any differently. So I scare a lot of people and men in the workplace, but I've also been able to be a role model where I have a seat at the table. I've had women come up to me and say, "How did you do that with the CEO?" And it's being confident in what you're doing, but it's also having a bit of humbleness along the way and being appreciative. I think the advice you just gave is, no matter where you are, that's advice that you should be carrying with you. You have to participate. You have to believe in the company that you're working with and that you're part of that organization and that you're part of driving it forward. As I said earlier, I've been in different companies, I've been in different industries, and you just have to learn how they operate and then integrate your own value system and your personal philosophies into what's happening around you. But don't let a woman or anyone get in the way of what it is that you need to do. And I really believe today women have far more opportunity with education, far more opportunity in different industries, and you have far more opportunity to continue to lead the way from where my mother was and even where I am. So take advantage of the time that you're in.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I completely agree. I work in the investment banking industry, so it's heavily male-dominated, and I've never thought of being a woman as an issue. It never crossed my mind, and maybe it's because I've had very supportive, managers who've always just pushed me and have looked at the work that I complete, and so it's never been an issue for me. But at the same time, because I work in a male-dominated industry, there are groups and networks in the same way that there are networks at school, that you can have a smaller community of women that can help mentor you and push you forward. So I think if you start to make it an issue in your head, then I think you psych yourself out, and it doesn't have to be an issue.
Yeah, and with that, pick companies that promote women.
Yeah.
If you're in a company that it's not promoting you, leave it. Leave the door. Go find someone else. Do the research. Find those companies that support women and make you part of their environment. And there's some out there that don't. There's some out there that are changing. But pick the ones that will actually be around you and provide those support systems.
I want to add a little bit of another spin to what I've just heard, and I certainly agree, having worked in corporate America, that I did not allow being a woman to stop my trajectory. But what I have learned recently as well is that I am very aware that I am a woman, and I use that. I am empowered by that. I sit at tables with men all day, every day. I am the only woman that has started a not-for-profit in this field that has just been funded by the state, and I use it, and I love it. I am empowered by it, and I really try to inspire other women to do the same. I don't shrink, I don't hide, I stand strong, I speak with value and integrity and respect, and I get that back. But I am always aware that I am a woman. I am always aware that I'm usually the only woman, and more particularly, I heard Dr. Klotz mention about being a woman of color, and that is not lost on me. That intersectionality, I use it, and I use it to my benefit all the time.
I just want to ask you a quick question,
Sure.
and then I'll go to you.
Yeah.
You know I have to dig deeper, Felecia, on this one.
Of course you do.
I know. You said you use it, being a woman. What about being a woman do you actually use? What are you equating to being a woman?
I mean, it depends on what part of me I need to use at what point of time, right? And so sometimes I'll use the softer, more gentler side of me, right? The mother. Sometimes I have to use the very empowered black woman that grew up in the Bronx and in Harlem, right? And so that more rough exterior has to come out. But I find that often, more often than not, when I'm in a table, at a table, conference room, boardroom, whatever it may be, the men there may already have underestimated me because I am a black woman. And I love that. I love it and I use it, and more often than not, they're wrong, right? Because of what I am bringing to the table. And more times I have accomplished more than, one, they had ever expected of me as being a black woman, and two, more than they had ever accomplished themselves. And so I sit on that, I put it in my back pocket, and I just wait for the opportunity to use it each and every time.
I'm so happy that you just said all of that, because you hit on 2 points that I think are really, really important. I think that I too have never really seen being a woman as a pressure point of my career. I think that I have been able to use it to my benefit and whatnot. However, that's not to say that I haven't been in a room of, 2 male CEOs and they are looking right past me. Not really listening to what I have to say or anything like that. In those instances that you might face, men might look right past you or laugh at what you say or speak over you or things like that. I think that it's really, really important to stand your ground and interrupt them. And speak over them and really, be strong in your opinions and stand firm in what you believe, and don't shrink under pressure because you think that, okay, well, now he has the floor and I have to shut up. No, like, you were interrupted. You are at the table for a reason, and it's really important to know that. I think that secondly, I think I have noticed more, not necessarily of a struggle, but I've noticed that a little bit more of a challenge in being a woman of color in a workplace amongst both men and women who aren't of the same background. And I think that, again, you really have to not shrink under pressure and stand up for what you believe and be, the spokesperson for being a woman, number one, and being a woman of color. It's really, really important that we, make a name for ourselves in those spaces and be confident in who you are, because you are exactly where you are supposed to be, and that seat at the table in that room. And it's really important, again, not to shrink under that kind of pressure.
Thank you. I love how that fire just came out. Did you see that? You felt that, right? A little bit. That was good. I like that. So with that, I'd like to know, what is your proudest accomplishment professionally? You like waiting for that, like in what aspect of my life? But professionally, what is your proudest accomplishment?
I think my proudest accomplishment is being able to take my test and turn it into a testimony, and being able to actualize a dream because of that test, in order to empower others to grow and to heal and to learn and to get healthy again, reintegrate into their families like I did, and reintegrate back into society like I did. and go back to school, live your dreams, find your vision, and live your passions for real, right? Let nothing stop you. And so my biggest accomplishment was taking that test of addiction and becoming a woman and a face of recovery, and then designing a not-for-profit around that. And it did begin with a business plan that I stuck to, and I made a reality.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I think that my proudest moment was pretty recently. I was starting to feel sort of stagnant in my job, and I was also pregnant at the time. And I didn't have any intentions of leaving my job. I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to keep working this job. I've been here for a while. I will go on maternity leave. I'll go back to this job and maybe things will be a little bit different and all that kind of stuff. And then I got a call from Facebook. And I was 7 months pregnant at the time. And I was like, well, I have to see the Facebook offices. This is my only chance that I'm going to get to visit Facebook. Let me just go. I have to go. I didn't have any intention of getting the job whatsoever. I still did sort of try to hide my giant stomach and everything so that it's not awkward, because I mean, if a giant pregnant lady walks into an interview, it can be very awkward. So I, got an outfit together. I went to visit the offices and everything, and it was as awesome as I thought it would be, and whatnot. And I did immediately call the person who would be my manager. I called him and I said, hey, I just want to be really honest with you. I am very, very pregnant. I understand if you can't hire me at this time, I know that it wouldn't, if I'm going to be out in a month, for leave, I know that, it might not be the best idea for the team, because you want to get somebody in there that is, ready to hit the ground running. And, so I said, it's cool, like, if you don't hire me, I get it, And he stopped me and he said, Lauren, I don't care whatsoever. And he said, if anything, you calling me to tell me this, really shows your integrity. And he said, so I'll just talk to the team, I won't tell them anything, and I'll talk to you soon. And I hung up and I was like, okay, now I'm really not gonna get a job. And especially because if as a woman, if you have to tell a man, hey, I'm very pregnant, a lot of men don't wanna hear that or talk about that, right? So I thought I really shot myself in the foot, but I did feel very, very compelled to tell the hiring manager to be honest enough. I didn't wanna show up on my first day, 8 months pregnant, and be like, surprise. So I told him, and he said, okay, I'll talk to you in a few days or a week or whatnot. And then the next phone call, they offered me the job. And I was like, are you sure? Yeah, you heard I said that I was very pregnant. I'm going to be out soon. And he said, no, we have to have you on our team. And so I had to say yes. And I think that was a really proud moment for me, because number one, honestly, I was feeling very defeated in my job, and I felt like I didn't have it anymore, and I wasn't a good recruiter anymore. And so I felt like if I could get hired at this company, I must still have it. Secondly, I think to walk into an interview and perform well, and have an employer believe in you enough to hire you, knowing that you're going to be off the job for a few months, in a month, I was really proud of that. And I also had a lot of women come out of the woodwork saying how inspired they were by me taking a chance and actually changing jobs when I had been in a stable position for more than a year, for 2 years, and really taking, again, a leap of faith and leaving my job and transitioning and starting new right when I was about to have a baby. And it really inspired them to take chances in their career, and it showed them that they could actually, do things like that they could start a family and have a career at the same time. And there was nothing wrong with it. Yes, it's a challenge, but they were really inspired by, me doing that. And so I think that whole thing was really has been the proudest moment of my career.
Would Robin or Nicole like to respond to that?
I don't have a single moment. I have many moments through the journey, but similar to what you were just speaking about is every time I've transitioned from one role to the other, it's brought me someplace that I wasn't aware where it was going to take me, and every time I've changed the job, actually this is the longest I've ever been in one company, but I stay in this company because while my job title itself has been the same title, the function of my job continues to change, and the company I work for continues to evolve what I do along with them. So those are proud moments, and take the chances, and don't get settled in your job. I actually took a walk with my CEO today and dropped that a recruiter called me a couple of weeks ago just to keep him on his toes. So. But just know it's the journey, and know that when you do make a change, it's bringing you someplace that you probably just didn't know it was going to end up bringing you.
I want to just feed off of that, and I know you. I've known you for a few years now, so I know the level of responsibility that you have in your role, and how crazy it can be in your world, and the responsibility that you have is enormous. And this is for you, but then for the panel as well. How do you manage all of that? How do you breathe at the end of the day when you have such an incredible amount of responsibility on the job? And then I know you're in a PhD program, and you have a child, and we have worlds outside of this where the responsibilities don't reduce at all. So how do you balance it?
One, I think it goes back to you have to love what you do. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have moments where you're like, ugh. But if you're having those ugh moments, they have to be few and far between. Sometimes they will go for stretches, and don't give up. It's bringing you someplace that you don't know. Last year, I don't remember what happened to me last year. I was in a job that was probably, the company's restructured, but I persevered. But you have to have a strong support system around you. You have to have a strong family around you. You have to have people around you that care about you. And you have to have colleagues that are working together as a team. I'm very, very fortunate. The team that I have around me, we've been together for 13 years as a team. We have up moments, we have down moments, but we support each other. I have a fabulous CEO who is a great, you just have to have those great support systems. And know that while you're working with people, new people are going to filter through. So you have to be a good mentor to those people that are coming along and bring them along. And the old saying, when you give, it gives back to you. And the company I work for is the world's largest food service organization. It's massively huge. I have responsibility for over 25,000 employees. I oversee close to $2 billion worth of sales and business. And I don't have a big staff. I probably have about 13 people that support that. But I heard someone say, and probably I understand the word yes, but you learn to say the word no. No becomes very important as you need to lifestyle balance out. And in my younger years, you say yes, 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 yes. In my later years, say no, I don't do that anymore. So you have to go through that journey to know when yes turns to no, to have that balance as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it also goes back to your core values, so what is important to you. So know that, like someone mentioned before, it is a journey. So there will be different phases, and so that balance will look different today, and it will look different later on in life. So knowing what's important to you and then being confident and knowing your self-worth helps you tell people, look, I have to work from home one day a week. That's just how it's going to work. And knowing what your non-negotiables are and standing your ground. So if you're very transparent with people, people are actually very understanding. And they appreciate you being upfront and saying, here's the deal, and they get it. It's, people are human, so they understand it. No one expects you to be a robot forever. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, I agree, say yes, do what you can, learn as much as you can, but there comes to a point where you have to figure out then what's important to you to make sure that you keep that balance.
Yes and yes. But also for me, women. my women. So when you mentioned the word supports, I got it immediately, but my definition of those supports are other women in my life. And so I have some amazing women around me in my personal life that help me in my professional and my educational and all the other stuff that I do. I'm a parent, so all that other stuff is supported by amazing women, and they are not energy vampires. And when I find that I have women in my life that have become energy vampires, I cut them loose, because I don't have the luxury of having someone like that in my life. And so I am surrounded and insulated by this beautiful little enclave of women that love me and support me. And so when I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning writing a paper and I can text one of them and go, ugh, I just really want to quit school right now, I'll get a text back going, no ma'am, that is not what we do. Keep it moving, take a nap, get up, do what you have to do, but you are going to submit this paper. And so that's the kind of supports that I have around me, those women.
Thank you.
I think it's also really important to not only know yourself and know your limits, but also to be able to forgive yourself and know that, it might take a little bit of time to know your limits and whatnot. I mean, I'm on maternity leave now. I have a 2-month-old at home. I go back in May, and honestly, I have no idea how I'm going to work full time and also, be a full-time mother. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of help around me, but it's still something that it's like, wow, how am I going to do this? And so I think for me, it's going to be really important to be able to forgive myself, especially in the first few months of transitioning back into the workplace. I'm not always going to get it all right. You're not always going to get it all right. You're going to feel guilty about missing out on some things and whatnot. But I think that, again, it's so important to be able to forgive yourself, and while you're learning yourself and continuing to learn yourself and learning how to navigate the workplace, especially as a woman, we are really hard on ourselves, and we don't forgive ourselves enough. So I think that's also really important.
I love these answers. I have so many more questions to ask you, but I don't want to be greedy. So it's your turn. Let's open it up now for the audience. I'm sure you have some questions that you'd like to ask our panelists. Oh, go to the microphone. Is that? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Chelsea, come on up. I'm glad I didn't fall off. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, you do?
Hello, I'm Caitlin. So I have a question. I usually hear being a woman in the industry. I hear that there's cases where you're since you're a woman, they'll give you tasks that are lesser than what a male would get. So have you ever experienced that? For instance, my mentor, she tells me that they have her require take notes at meeting rather than work on a project with her team. Have you ever faced something like that, and how did you overcome that? Yeah.
I have to say, in ad planning, right, when I was media planning, the industry was brutal, and I certainly worked for men that were dominant, and they would certainly ask me to do things, and I would be there until 2 in the morning, doing media runs, right, and that was back in the old days when computers were, about the size of this room, and right, and yes, I did them, right, and yes, I did them, and yes, I felt devalued at the end of those tasks. But that also fueled me to know that, one, I did not want to be that kind of supervisor when my turn would arise, and it gave me a sense of humanity that I took forward with me as I work with other people every day. And so I do not treat people in a way that I would never want to be treated as I have been treated in the past.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I majored in MBA Executive Program. I have a question for Chelsea. Yeah, I attended our school job fair, and I was orally got an offer from Canon, but they suggest me to work for Canon China, because I used to be a product manager of my previous company in China, but I told them I prefer to work in the United States, because right now I'm doing my marketing study in the United States, and the HR asking me, oh, why you step down and backwards to interns? Why you want to applying for summer intern in Canon, the United States? So I want to ask you this question: if you were me, how would you respond?
No pressure.
I would say if it's the U.S. that you really want,
Yes, I have to. I must be staying here.
no, I completely understand. I would really push for it. Even though they are encouraging for you to go to China, I would really push for, yes, it's an internship and they may not understand it, but just letting them know I want to be in the door for the U.S. Like, I want to be here. And for them to see that passion, show them why you want to be here. What are the things that make it different from China than here? Like the things that really are pushing you to want to stay here. Let them know that. And you're willing to be an intern. You're willing to bring yourself down in that sense as position-wise, but you want to go to the basics. You want to develop those skills here in the U.S. So really push for that. Even though you may hear no, push for it. You will be surprised. They may open up that opportunity for you to just, if they see it, yes, there you go.
Thank you.
I'm going to say something, and this may be seeming derogatory. They do not have your best interest at heart.
Right.
They're not hiring you because they want you to be an intern, or they are hiring you because of the direction that they're trying to put you into. Companies don't hire you because they pretend they like you, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that, from being an HR professional, but it's all about the business being successful. It's all about how they can make money, and how you choose to interact in that environment is what you control. But they're not bringing you on for your best interest. If your interest that fits you is for an internship, then that's where you tell them what you want. If they don't want to accept that, then you can choose to move on. But they're not looking at you because it's about you. It's about them.
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, any company is going to do what is in their best interest for them to grow, meet their bottom lines, answer to their board, and it is about them and them mostly. What we end up making out of it, right, becomes our own journeys personally, but initially, you are absolutely spot on. It is about them and what they need from you. It is not about you right now.
That is also not to discourage you, I think, from wanting the internship in the US, because I think that there's something valuable if you have already worked in China as a product person. It's really, really good for you to get an internship or get a position in the US to learn, how things are done here, because there's a world of difference. So I think that you should definitely continue to go after that. If that is your goal, continue to go after that, but it might not be at Canon. And that's okay. Like the lady said, they want to hire somebody for the role that they have in mind, point blank, period. So if it's not with them, I would pursue other opportunities with companies that do have something that falls in line with what your goals are for right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello. Have you ever been in the situation of doing the same job as your male counterpart and finding out that you're being paid less? If so, how did you handle that situation?
That's a great question. I have assumed that I was paid less than my male counterpart, but to be honest, I think that it's not something that I ever got really, really angry about. Number one, because I think in any of my positions that I have felt that way, I think that I was compensated quite well. However, I think that if you start paying so close attention to what everybody else around you is making, and what everybody else around you is doing or whatnot, I think it's a really slippery slope, and you could end up super, super unhappy, just because comparison, as we know, is the thief of joy. And so in those situations, I tried really hard not to pay attention to that kind of stuff, because I didn't want those negative thoughts to seep into my everyday work, and sort of suck the joy out of, a job that I was, never mind the money, I was happy in my position, and I never mind the position, never mind the money, we still had the same benefits and the same perks and all of that kind of stuff. And so I choose to focus on, what I really, really love about my job without worrying about the money, because for me personally, and similar to what you said before, Felecia, you could have all the money in the world and be dead inside and everything. So I'm much more focused on, loving what I'm actually doing than what my partner is being paid instead of me.
I think that's good, but I think at the same time, and this could be, it's just, I think women sometimes are scared to have that conversation with their management, and men aren't as always. So it almost, because I think women have this sense that, if I go and say something, I'm just going to be that woman that complains, or I'm nagging, and you get tagged as these kind of stereotypical annoying women habits. But the reality is that you should value your work, and you should value yourself, and not be afraid to go in there and not, like you said, not talk about comparison, but really discuss with your managers, I think I'm worth more, here are the things that I do, and therefore I think it should be a discussion that we should have. I don't think people should be scared of that. It's something that's very common for people to do, and it just shows them that you know that you're worth something, and so they appreciate that as well.
For sure. I think we really need to normalize the money conversation.
Yeah.
So many people are scared to talk money, whether you're already in your position and asking for a raise, or whether you are, having that initial discussion in your interview process and whatnot. It's a normal conversation. Just have it. I think that you should know your value, and you should always ask for a little bit more, and see where they meet you. But it's a normal conversation to have that you shouldn't be scared of.
Yeah, I think sorry, I think as long as you go in there and, you're not like demanding of things, well, the worst thing they could say is, not at this time. And then, but at least you had that conversation, and it's something that they do kind of keep in the back of their head if they want to try to keep you, so.
I was going to say, I used two strategies when I was in corporate America. And one was that I sold my value and my worth up front, so I didn't have to double back and ask for more money, right? So I established who I am and why I should be in the position for which I was interviewing. And then the second thing I did was I never accepted what they offered me. Never. So they gave me an offer, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you, and I understand, but this is what I was thinking. And maybe I'll tack on another week of vacation if they can't meet the dollar value. And so I never accepted the offer as it stood. If you don't ask, you do not receive.
We are running out of time, and I just wanted to say thank you for asking the questions in the audience, the participation, so much fantastic advice here today. I loved it. I learned a lot. If we could, I just want to thank our panelists for coming in. And I believe Ms. Janelle Owens is coming up. Yes. Thank you. Good evening. First, we would like to thank our amazing panelists. Thank you for sharing your story and your paths with us tonight, and coming out of your crazy schedules. I know all of you have a hectic schedule, and we appreciate you all coming here, taking time from your lives and share with us. So can we give it up again for our panelists?
Next, I would like to thank our beautiful, amazing moderator, Amy Bravo. She did an excellent job. And Anne-Marie Klotz, who led the Alumni Spotlight earlier. And lastly, I would like to thank the committee who put this together. If they can stand up, Miranda, Tiffany, Sade, Megan. Thank you all as a committee to put this together. Definitely some of the takebacks that I've heard tonight were passion. Make sure you all have passion in whatever it is you're doing, because if that's not in you, then nothing will work out. So definitely keep that with you and keep that in mind. I hope that you all get home safely tonight. And thank you, and we'll see you again next year at CEO. Also, if all parties involved and the panelists could just come up to the front of the committee so we can take a final picture. Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course. Great advice. Amy. Yeah, we met. I grew up